So morning, church. Great to be here. Great to be sharing with you. And obviously, I'm sharing this morning. I'm Mark. For those who may be new, I'm just a member here of the church. I'm not that into clothes, but I realise I've got something that says boss on my t-shirt. I'm actually a servant. I'm not a boss, right? I'm a servant, but they don't sell t-shirts saying servant. And I'm not that into clothes, so I didn't really think about that when I came. But Sam and Mark, our pastors, are actually away on holiday this week. I'd like to say enjoying the sunshine in Santorini, but don't whisper it too quietly. But it's actually been a bit niffy there. I mean, the weather here, I think, has been a bit better. And we've had the Northern Lights, so it hasn't really been a week to miss in the UK, has it? But they're away on holiday. The reason they're not here isn't just because they got the memo about who was speaking, right? So I like to think that they didn't plan their holiday around that, but there you go. But we're a church that's on the move. We heard about the fridge magnets. This church is on the move, and Sam introduced a theme last week, the sermon theme, time to move, which is what we're going to be sort of speaking on over the course of the coming month. And so I'd like to continue on this. Last week, Sam was speaking with us, and she was sharing the story of Abraham. And we heard from Hebrews 11:8 how Abraham was obedient to the call and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. This great picture of Abraham that I think was a really powerful message, sort of stepping out into the known, and how the Lord goes ahead of us and goes ahead into our future and protects us as we're on the way. So I thought that was a really powerful word. But continuing in terms of that theme today, I was going to start by looking at why it is we actually end up moving and why God wants us to move. And also some of the things that hold us back from moving, both in our own lives and also in the context of the church as well. So that's where I was planning to go this morning. I've got to say, speaking about the topic of movement, I think comes quite naturally to me. I'm someone who is always on the move. When I go on holiday, I'm absolutely useless at sunbathing. I just can't really do it, not just because I turn red at the first sight of the sun, but I just get bored very quickly. I'm always wanting to be on the move. I'm always seemingly flying around, and in fact, this week I've been flying around the States and just got back yesterday, so I'm also glad that I'm preaching standing up so I don't sort of fall asleep on you with my jet lag. But moving is something that is very much part of my life. But sometimes you wonder to yourself, why is it we're on the move? Why we are on the move? And I think that here, the first thing to say is we can sort of take this right back to the very beginning of the Bible, the first verse, because we are created in God's image, aren't we? We're created in God's image. And even in Genesis 1, you read the verse that says, even in the beginning, the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Even before time began, even before creation, God was hovering. He wasn't just sitting there, he was hovering. And he's been on the move ever since. Our God is always on the move. And because we're created in his image, we share his DNA, if you like. We are on the move too. I don't know who your sort of mental image of what God is like actually is, you know. Sometimes you can sort of have this sort of mental image about God, almost like a picture of some white dude with a long beard sitting on a throne not doing much. But that's not who God is, right? Our God moves. Our God has got creativity is very much part of what he's always been up to, and he's always a creating God and a moving God. And indeed, if you think about us today, if you think about the planet we're on, we're actually sort of here on a planet that's actually racing around the sun. We're even standing on tectonic plates which are moving beneath our feet, whether we can detect that or not. But the truth is that all around us in nature, movement is very much a thing, isn't it? And we also read, if we turn to Hebrews 12, 1-2, here we see the sort of famous passage that Paul shared about life being a race, and telling us how we're to run the race with perseverance, marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. The idea that we are on the move. We're called to keep running ahead. We're called to keep our eyes very much on Jesus. Life isn't about standing still. Now, life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. But I think the point here is that time does not stand still. Time is always moving forward. And I think the same applies also to the church, if you think about it. In the Great Commission, in Matthew 28:19, obviously a very famous verse, we sort of see there that Jesus said, "Therefore go forth and make disciples of all nations." He didn't say sit on your backside and do it, or do it from home. We were actually called to go out. We were actually called to move forward in faith and do this. And if you read through the New Testament, you'll see the stories of folk like Paul, who moved from city to city to city, setting up and establishing new churches. And that was very much how the church began. Or if you think further back in the Bible, the stories of Moses or Jonah or Abraham, there's always been examples when people are on the move. So I think we get this picture of movement being a constant. But then ask yourself for a moment, why is it that God actually wants us to move in the first place? And here I think that we're called to grow, and it's all about sort of God's desire for us to grow as individuals and to become mature. In the 1 Corinthians 13, we see a verse there that says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish ways. I think the point here is that we're all on a spiritual journey. We're called towards greater maturity. And movement is very much part of this story. I think that Sam sort of touched on this last week. If you think about a plant can only get as big as the pot that you plant it in. And so from that point of view, sort of as we're called to growth, there's going to be movement at times in our life. I can think of many of the people who are here today. You didn't sort of start your lives here in Harpenden. You may have come from far and wide, right, to be here. But movement has been part of this. When I think about our youth, I mean, we've got some amazing youth, haven't we? I mean, we've got great youth, and I'm really excited about this group. And I think there's already a number of folk here that I'm looking at who have already got great and amazing faith. And I'm looking at some people here who are going to grow into some proper spiritual giants, aren't I? I mean, there's some great stuff that's going to be happening with all of you guys, and I'm really excited to be part of that and see part of that over the months and years that are to come. But in terms of moving, bear in mind that God is always more interested in your character than your comfort, right? So sometimes moving isn't always something that is comfortable. Sometimes movement can be unsettling. It can be hard, right? And this leads me to want to come on to the heart of the topic I was really wanting to speak about today, which is things that hold us back from moving. But before I go there, I want to acknowledge that there are going to be times in life, right, where there are circumstances and things that actually hold us back from being able to move forward in the first place. It could be circumstances. It could be finances. It could be health conditions or other commitments that we have. In fact, for the last couple of weeks, I've been limping around with a sore foot. And for someone who's always on the move, this has been completely debilitating for me. It's really, really done my head in, to be honest. And so, in fact, I've been sort of away in the US this week, and at one point I thought I was going to be one of those people who had to get wheeled around in a wheelchair as you go to the airport gate. But thankfully, it's got a bit better over the course of the last few days. But certainly, where there are things that are holding us back, there'll be times when we need to pray for a breakthrough. We need to be able to actually get some sort of breakthrough to move forward. Though at other times there will be moments where it's actually God's will for us to actually stay still for a moment, right? There is a time to move forward, and there's a time to be still. And one of the verses that sort of jumps out to me here in Psalm 23, in the second verse there, is the verse that says, he makes me lay down in green pastures. And you think of this, yeah, this is all very nice, like laying down in green pastures kind of thing. But it doesn't say we lie down in green pastures. No, he makes us lay down in green pastures. And the interesting thing to reflect on here, if you think of sheep don't lay down willingly, right? They're not animals who ever lay down. You actually have to make them lay down if you want them to lay down. And so there'll be times when God wants us to be still, and he does make us lay down, even those ones who are stubborn and don't want to lay down, including myself. So what is God saying to you right now? And maybe it is time that you need to listen and be still for a moment. But I think in terms of the message here, bear in mind that we weren't born to stay still, were we? So being still can be a temporary thing, it can be a season, but it's not ultimately going to be our destiny. Also, God moves, but also bear in mind that God does not move away from us. That's something else that I wanted to make a note of. He doesn't move away from us, but we can move away from him. And I've been a Christian now for, 34 years. And certainly if I think about my journey as a Christian, there have been times in my walk with God where I felt really, really close to God, and other times where I felt further away. But I think the truth is, in all of this, is that in the times where I've been sort of further away from God, what I really needed to do is take a step back towards him, because he's there all the time. In Matthew 28, verse 20, he says, I am with you always. He doesn't say, I'm with you some of the time, or when you're being good, or when you're on a spiritual high, does he? The reality is he is with us always. 24/7, he is there. And again, if you're sort of in a situation in life where you're feeling that the God is distant from you in your life today, I'd encourage you to turn around, take a step back towards him, because he is there. Sort of jump into Psalm 139. It's the sort of great words in his message to you if that's where you are in life. But otherwise, looking at our lives as a whole, looking at some things that hold us back from moving. So what can actually hold us back from moving, right? So I think when I thought of trying to make a bit of a list here, the first thing that I thought that might hold us back from moving is fear. We might get sort of scared of moving forwards. And I think here we've got the very famous story in the Bible about Jonah, who he basically he gets so scared, doesn't he? He runs off 2,500 miles in absolutely the wrong direction. It doesn't end up too well for him, does he, in the belly of the fish? But there you go. In Joshua 1:9, we read, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? So if you're feeling full of fear in a situation in life, if fear is the thing that's holding you back, hang on to this particular verse. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I think that this is something to really sort of reflect on. There's a worship song we sing sometimes where it is the lyric, I'm not going to try and sing, I'll spare you that, but it says, I am surrounded, I'm always surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. And I think the idea that when we're feeling fear, he is there, and in sometimes it can be fear of failure, can't it? I mean, we can be scared of different things. I mean, we can be scared about sort of failing. That can be the thing that holds us back. But in Proverbs 24:16 it says, though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Really speaking to the fact that, yeah, sometimes we are going to fail. Sometimes it is going to go wrong. But actually, we can work our way through that. Also, a second thing that can hold us back is a fear of getting hurt. And the reality is, in life, as you go through life, there will be times that you get hurt. It's just a reality in life. I can think of times when we've been hurt. But when we are hurt, I think one of the important things to say here is we need to forgive those who hurt us. And we actually need to forgive those who hurt us, largely for our own benefit. If we don't forgive, we're the ones who actually end up hanging on to the hurt. So that's really significant. In Romans 8:31, it says, if God is for us, who can be against us, right? Again, a well-known scripture. This doesn't mean that you're not ever going to get hurt again, but the Lord is with us in all things, right? In all situations. So don't be held back by a fear of getting hurt. Otherwise, you won't ever manage to get anywhere. A third idea that holds us back in life is actually if we get a bit lazy, right? We can lack motivation. We can be a bit lazy. I know I should go to the gym. I probably should go a bit more than I currently do. I've let myself go a bit in the last couple of weeks because of my bad foot, but there you go. But I know that the hardest thing about going to the gym is actually making yourself get there in the first place. Once you're there, it's kind of fine. You kind of even get into it. But getting there can be the hardest thing. But in Proverbs 13:4, it says, I love this proverb. It says, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. We can be lazy. We're naturally lazy in part of our DNA, and we can easily give in to that. And it's not sort of a suggestion here that life is a competition to be the most active all the time. But still, there'll be times when sort of lethargy and laziness can actually hold us back from doing what we're really being called to do. A fourth idea that can hold us back from moving forward is when we get comfortable. We can almost become too comfortable for our own good. There's a story about the frog that is kind of in the pan, if you throw a frog into a boiling pan of water, it will jump straight out and it will survive. But if that frog is left in a pan and you slowly turn up the heat, because the frog's kind of comfortable, it forgets to jump out until it's too late, and it doesn't. And so it can be a reminder that sort of being comfortable can actually be the enemy of what is actually right and what is good. And in this context, I think it's always important that we keep on looking forward to what's ahead of us. That's what the Lord's desire is. In Luke 9:62, there's a verse there that you'll have heard which says, no one who puts his hand to the plough and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Now, this does not mean that you're never to think about what was in the past. That's not the point of the verse. It's more the fact that if you're sort of trying to plough, if you're looking behind you, you're not going to plough your lines in a straight line. You'll end up all over the place. So you really need to fix your eyes on the destination going forward. And that's the desire that the Lord has for us in our lives too, to keep looking ahead, to keep looking forward. In the same way, I always remember sort of reading the scripture. Do you remember the story about the guy in the Old Testament, Lot? Lot had his wife, didn't he? And when we saw the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they got wiped out, older Lot's wife looked back behind her and turned into a pillar of salt. And I always felt a bit sorry for her. You know, it feels a bit harsh. But I think the point of the story here is really an exhortation to us to look forward in life, because if we're always anchored in the back and looking past, we won't get to where God intends us to get going. And bear in mind that in looking ahead, the best for all of us is yet to come. It doesn't just apply to the youth, it applies to even people as old as, I'm not, the unmentionables. But the reality is the best is yet to come for all of us. And indeed, one day we'll all end up in eternity together in heaven, and it'll be even better there than it is here, right? So, again, I don't know what your mental picture of heaven is. It's not somewhere where people sit around playing harps and twiddling their thumbs bored. It's going to be a super exciting, vibrant, colourful, amazing place that we can't even begin to comprehend right here, right now, while we're on earth. The other thing that can hold us back is when we convince ourselves that we're not ready to take the next step. And look, preparation is a good thing, but you can be over-prepared, can't you? You can do things. All things, it says in Luke 1:37, for nothing is impossible with God. So we can do the things that are seemingly impossible. So if you're convincing yourself in a situation you're in your life today, I can't do it, I just can't get there, it's just impossible, believe in Scripture, hang yourself on this particular verse. I mean, anything is possible in God. I could even go as far as saying that if God wanted to grow hair back on my head, he probably could. In fact, he definitely could. I'm not sure that he ever will, and I'm not sure I particularly want it. I'm kind of over that now, but there you go. Anything is possible. I'd also say one of the other things to mention is we can end up procrastinating, can't we? We can keep on sort of pondering over decisions and not getting anywhere. And there's a verse here that really jumped out to me in Ecclesiastes in 11:4, which I really sort of really thought was wisdom to share, which says, Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. And I think it's really sort of a point here to say that if we don't get out off our backsides and actually make things happen, nothing will happen from time to time. And sometimes I think we can end up being a bit guilty of waiting for a breakthrough. And actually, often it can be the will of God for us to take the first step towards that. And I like the sort of modern version of that sort of proverb, which I heard a pastor friend share once, which says, God doesn't normally end up moving a parked car. It's a lot easier to move something when it's already moving in the first place. And also there'll be times when we can actually end up thinking that we're trapped or imprisoned, we can't move forward, things are holding us back. But a lot of this is actually in our own mind. We've kind of made up this narrative for ourselves. I mean, have you ever heard the story that sometimes there'll be situations where in zoos they'll end up leaving the doors open by mistake, but sometimes some of the animals will end up staying in the cages, won't they? Even though that they could get out. And so we've ended up imagining that bars are there to stop us moving forward when that's not really the truth. And in Proverbs 3:5 it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I think the thing to keep saying here is just don't let anything hold you back. We're on the move. We're called to be on the move. So just don't let anything hold you back in your life. So wherever you are today, whatever the Lord is putting on your heart in terms of where you need to move forward in your life, don't let anything hold you back, because the enemy will want to hold you back. It's his plan to distract you. It's his plan to convince you can't do things. But be encouraged to take that step forward and move forward. And as much as speaking about moving in our own lives, I'd also like to sort of close by sort of moving on to talk about sort of movement in our church. Because I started with this this note that our church is very much on the move, and I think in looking at this, I think that when you think about the church moving, I mean, if you think about the desire of God here, it's God's will for the church to grow and for the lost to be saved, isn't it? This is what the Lord wants the church to be. If you think about the history of the church itself didn't stay in one place. After Christ died, it spread out, it moved around. And the purpose, indeed, of the church was to spread the good news. Our Saviour came to earth, he died and was crucified and resurrected so that we could be reconciled to God and then spend eternity together with him. So this is very much the call on the church. But in terms of the church itself, it's always the people. The people are what comprises the church. It's never the building. And sometimes in the way that we use our language, the church can represent a building, can't it? But it's never meant to represent a building. Again, going through the scripture, I won't call them up here, and time's running ahead. But there are many verses that speak of the church as the bride with Christ as the bridegroom. We are the bride of Christ. The church are his people. So if this is his desire, one of the other things that really sort of jumped out to me when I thought about the church moving, though, was if you read through Revelation, in Revelation 2 and 3, you may recall the story where there are 7 churches, and they were all the sort of big mega churches of the day. I've listed their names here because I've half forgotten them. But it was Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And I can ask you, have any of you heard of the churches in those places today? And the answer is, no, you ain't, because they're all gone. All that remains of those churches are actually rocks and ruins now. And I used to think on this, and I thought, that's actually quite depressing, isn't it? I mean, there were all these great churches, and what became of them? They've all ended up as rubble. But then I'm reminded that actually the church today comprises 2.4 billion people. I mean, it's amazing what God has done in the history since those churches were around. The idea is that it was never about those individual churches as the buildings in those locations. It's very much about the body of Christ moving forward, isn't it? And it's really amazing what God has done. And I think it sort of almost leads me to think, I mean, I wonder where the church is going to be in 100 years from now. Have you ever asked yourself that question? I mean, I wonder where of course, the Lord could come back. He could come back. We don't know when he will. We know that he is going to come back one day. But and I know that we can talk about living in the end times, but I mean, they've been doing that for a while, haven't they? I mean, we could go on for another 100 years. We could go on for another 1,000 years. I don't know how many people God wants in heaven. I think it's lots and lots and lots and lots, right? Heaven's a big place. I mean, the universe is a big place. Who knows what church will look like in 100 years or in 1,000 years or what worship will sound like. No pressure there, Rachel. But the point is, it's God's will for the church to not stand still and keep moving forward, isn't it? And I think in all of this, I'd also like to emphasize that God is in control of all things. I'll say it again, God is in control of all things, even when we don't understand it. And frankly, there's just lots and lots that we don't understand. And there's no way we'll be able to make sense of a lot of things in life this side of heaven. And there's an American pastor I like called Rick Warren, and he sometimes comes up with this phrase that the difficulty is that sort of God trying to explain to us all of everything today would be like us ourselves trying to explain how the internet works to an ant. You just can't do it. It's beyond our comprehension to actually understand these things. But we do know that God is in control and he has got a plan. And I believe, more than I believe, I know that the Lord has got a plan for this world. He's got a plan for the UK, and he's got a plan for Harpenden. And I know that I very much want to be part of it, and I'm sure you do too. I know that in terms of this particular church, it feels like God's hand is very much on this church in this time and in this season. And I know it's the desire of the leadership here to allow the Lord to lead us in all things. And the Eric Morecambe Centre is an amazing opportunity if you think how that's come together. I know in the past we were part of a church that once tried to rent out the Auburn Arena. I know how hard it was to do. I was part of trying to organise that. It was very, very difficult. And here it feels like it's been handed to us on a plate. It's kind of amazing how circumstances have worked together and come together to make these things possible. So I'm very excited. And it's not always going to be easy, this journey. Moving isn't always easy, but as I said, the Lord is more interested in our character than our comfort as we move through this. So there will be some times in the coming weeks where we'll all end up moaning, I don't know where we are this week, this is all a bit frustrating, or I can't get parked in Harpenden Town Centre or in St Albans. But the Lord is calling us to see the big picture and move forwards. We can't get scared, we can't get discouraged, we shouldn't be looking back. And also, I'd say that in this time of movement, we've all got a part to play in this. All of us. I'm looking at all of you. There's no one excepted here. We've all got a part to play. We're all parts of the body. We all have something to offer, don't we? There are all different ways that we can serve and we can be part of the life of this church. And so my challenge to you this morning is anything holding you back? Is anything stopping you getting more involved? Is anything stopping you from serving? Think on that. And if there's anything that you need help with, speak to others that we might help you in those situations. I certainly know that when I get to heaven, I don't want to end up regretting all the things that I never did. I'd rather try and fail, as it says 7 times, and fail. I think it's my heart's desire to keep pressing forward because we're called to move. It's time to move, and our church is very much on the move. So thanks for listening to my thoughts this morning, and I hope some of that has spoken to you. But it's an exciting season ahead, and I'm really glad for the opportunity to be here and to be part of this. Thanks.